Hello and welcome to Cookery of Mason Storm. On this channel we make delicious food for every skill level. On today's episode we're going to be making some potato hash with corned beef. Stay tuned to see how it's made. As you probably expected, we use potatoes and we use corned beef to make this recipe. We'll use a little bit of seasoning later on. To begin with, we'll get out our cutting board. I like these little mats to make it so your board doesn't slip. And we'll cut our potato in nice thick slices. And then we can separate some of the slices and rotate it 90 degrees and do a couple more slices. This will allow us to cross cut and get nice little cubes, because cubes are such a great shape when it comes to making any form of hash. Actually, in a lot of potato recipes they work quite good because they cook quickly and they're uniform in size. Because a lot of the complication when it comes to cooking potatoes is uniformity, and surface area has a direct impact on the crispiness factor of your potatoes. The smaller they are, the more sides they have that you're exposed to, and the sides are what have the crispiness. So it's really a perfect shape as far as potatoes go, especially for making a hash like this. And we're just going to go through and we're going to cut all our potatoes. And once our potatoes are cut, we'll move on to our beef. Now this can, it's the type that uses the can opener that's integrated with the product itself, and you just keep turning until it takes the whole top off. I always thought this was kind of a little bit of a novelty, and it's very rare to see this on products these days. And I had it in the fridge, and usually that makes it a little easier to extract the corned beef from the can, because the beef kind of shrinks so it doesn't stick as much. But I did struggle a little bit getting it out, and it was just a matter of kind of prodding around the edges and kind of wobbling it back and forth till it eventually slid out. Because it's a lot easier to cut it if you keep it all in one piece. And the way we're going to cut this is the same as the potatoes from before. We'll cut it in slices one direction, and then we'll cut it in slices another direction, and then we'll simply chomp it, and we'll have nice little corned beef cubes, which are nice and convenient for this style of recipe. And it's quite easy to do, really. They're all going to kind of break apart when we cook them anyway, but that's that. A lot of times when I make this recipe, I also do up an onion. That really gives it another flavor as well. Either way, we'll go over to our stove top, get a nice big pan out, and we'll go for kind of a medium heat. Now we'll dump in our oil just to kind of give the pan something to go with, and then we'll dump in our potatoes. What we're going to do is we're going to probably 75%, 85% cook the potatoes before adding our corned beef. So we're just going to let that sit on the pan, stirring it occasionally for a prolonged period of time. You can kind of turn up the temperature if you want, and you can cook them quicker, but you run a risk of over caramelizing the outsides of the potatoes, which may or may not be a bad thing and may be the desired angle that you want to go with. But when you cook them kind of at a lower temperature, they get nice and tender before they get crispy. And then later on you can crank the heat and then you get the crispiness on everything, which is usually the way that I do it. Now after they've been cooking a while, I like to do some basic seasoning. What I'm using here is seasoning salt, which is essentially salt with, I think there's a little bit of sugar, garlic powder, and some other fanciness in there. I'm not entirely sure what it consists of. But I do know that it works really good on making stovetop potatoes, and it works good in this style of recipe as well. Other things you may want to do is just mix garlic powder with onion powder, and maybe something a little bit spicy, a little bit of cayenne, maybe a little basil. A lot of different ways you can kind of mix it up when you're making your potatoes. But this just kind of gives it a little bit more of a zing as we continue the cooking process. And then a little while later, it's time to add in our corned beef. And once we have our corned beef added, we'll throw in a little bit more seasoning, and we'll just keep continuing to cook it. Now at this point, if you wanted to crank the temperature to kind of speed finish the process and get a lot of caramelization on the potatoes, go for it. That's what I do sometimes as well, but I kind of went a little bit low and a little bit slow, and then went a little bit higher a little later. I was also lifting weights at the time, so having it at a lower temperature allowed me to go do a set and then come back and stir and then rinse and repeat. A really great way to start off the morning. And then every now and then what you want to do is just pick up a potato and eat it and see how done it is. I think that's the best way to tell if your potatoes are ready or what stage they're at. Now you can cook them till they're completely tender in the inside. You can kind of stop a little bit before that, get a little bit of an al dente thing going on, and that can also be really good. So there's a lot of fine tuning and customization with this recipe. But the truth is, it's very simple, very easy to make. And as long as you don't go crazy with your heat and burn everything, it's really hard to screw up. And I like stuff like that. I like stuff to be nice and easy. And once our potatoes are nice and tender to the way we want them, and the corned beef is nice and cooked down like we want, our stuff is ready. So then it's fit for human consumption, which is just fantastic. So I like having this meal with things. I think it's really good if you make a bunch of it up. You can kind of store it in the fridge, and let's say you made a chicken later, you could have this on the side and it's all ready and good to go. Or you can just eat it as is on its own, maybe with a couple cold vegetables or something. It's quite good and versatile. So let me know in the comments below how you make your corned beef hash, and if you make it like mine, or if you have some completely different method. I'm really quite interested to find out. If you like my content and would like to see more of it, please like and subscribe. And until next time, stay awesome.